Welcome back to our channel. Today we are going to be making Huggie style earrings. I personally love Huggie style earrings. They are very versatile. You can wear them day to night for work or play and they're never out of place. So they're a great style to learn to make. There are a few things that we are going to be running through. So the first one is going to be making your own Huggie Baking Rack. With Huggies, they do have that rounded shape to them, so we need some kind of form so that we can get that rounded shape when we bake our earrings. The second thing we're going to be doing is making the actual Huggie earrings, and then I am going to show you how to actually put the post on there. So let's go. So the first thing that we're going to do is make our Huggie Baking Rack. I have these Huggie baking tubes here. Now, I know the baking world may call them cannoli tubes, but in the polymer clay world, we have reappropriated them and they are now a Huggie baking rack. I love these for baking Huggies. They are just the perfect shape and size. These are about 20 mil in diameter, but I have seen other polymer clay artists use things like wooden dowel. They've gotten cardboard rolls that they've covered in alfoil. There's a few different ways that you can do it so that you can get the shape that you desire, and they're fantastic for baking not only Huggies but also hoops on as well. So what we're essentially going to do is set up a rack of 3 of them today. So all we need are the tubes, some scrap clay, and I also just have a cutter here that I'm going to show you in a moment what I'm going to do with that. When we set up this rack, you set it up and you can use it as many times as you like in the future. So you don't have to do this every single time you're going to be making a pair of Huggies. You can make this once and then it's ready to go every time you want to make a set of Huggies. All right, so let's make this baking rack. So I have my scrap clay here. I've got just a circle cutter. This is just a plain white gloss ceramic tile that you can pick up at any hardware store, or you can go to a tile store and just ask them for a sample tile. They're normally only a couple of dollars. And what I am going to do is I'm just going to cut out clay pieces here. I mean, they don't need to be perfect. Don't quite have perfect circles on the last one, but that's okay. You'll see in a moment. They're going to be slightly hidden. Because what we are going to do, out the way, and this out the way, we're just going to take our tubes that we've got here and we're going to set them up like so. And I find you get the best grip with the tubes when you kind of have the clay hanging off over the sides. You could fit more tubes on this tile. However, I like to have just the 3 on a tile this size, and it just means that I've got plenty of room to work once we are putting the Huggies on there. That looks good. And I'm just going to burnish this clay. So what that means is just essentially rolling it onto the tile so it sticks. And then once they are baked, they will stay put there. Once they're baked, you can easily get them off, but you have to wedge them off with your finger. So it's not like they're going to accidentally pop off. And we are just going to now push this down. There's number 1 done. And number 2. And number 3. So there you have it. There is our Huggie Baking Rack, all made. Now, you can bake this before you use it if you like. I am just going to wait until I've made my Huggie earrings and it can bake at the same time as my Huggies are baking. And once it's baked, they'll stay stuck together and you can use it time and time and time again. All right, let's make ourselves some Huggie earrings. So your first step is going to be picking out the clay cutters that you want to use, as well as the colors that you want to use for them. So I have my clay colors and my cutters here. So I have chosen to go grey granite for this rounded rectangle one here. We've got this beautiful floral one that we've got, so I've decided to do that with the Souffle Lilac Mist. And we also have the Ice Blue Pearl here that I'm going to do with this moon phase one. So my first step is going to be just to burnish my clay. So burnishing is just essentially just lightly rolling onto your tile so that it sticks. And this will just mean that when we cut out our pieces, that they don't get stuck in the cutter, because they will stay, the clay will stay stuck to the tile. Mouthful. All right. So our first one here is going to cut out our shape. Easy one. I'm just looking at this cutter here, so you can see that it is got quite a detailed imprint on there. So I am actually going to roll my clay a bit thinner. So this is one of the tricks for using more intricate cutters, is just to have your clay a bit thinner. And yes, I should be using depth guides, but I'm living life on the wild side today, and I'm not using depth guides. All right, then there are flower ones. Perfect. And our moon phase one here. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. This moon phase one isn't quite as detailed, but it does still have quite an imprint here. A little bubble in my clay there, so I might shoot over. Beautiful. All right, so we'll take this clay off here. The excess. And then we will be ready to pop them on our baking rack. So what I am going to do is just shimmy these clay pieces off using a tissue blade. So there is a bit of a technique to this, but basically you need to slice the blade underneath your clay pieces. I find it easier if I do it in one quick motion, like this. They're ready to go. And our flowers, they're ready to go. And our moon phase one. ready to go. If you do have a little bit around the edges here, so you can just smooth that down there. You can also sand afterwards, but I figure we're taking them off the tile anyway, so we might as well just give them a little smooth, and then we probably won't have to do any sanding afterwards. Never a bad thing. Beautiful. All right, let's move this out the way. We're going to bring our Huggie Baking Rack over, and we are going to use these as the form for our Huggies. So I'm just going to pop these Huggies on the baking rack. Now you can normally fit about 3 pairs on one of these at a time. I'm just going to lay them on the 3 separate ones. But what you want to do is just pop the Huggie around the form and just press down so that it sticks. So it's important to make sure that you have formed it properly around the tube and that all of the parts are sticking down. Otherwise, you are not going to get that perfect circular shape. Got that on there. I'm just going to clean that up. Clay spray granite is not quite as sticky as some others, but that's okay. You can still get it to stick down. So as you can see, I'm doing this very gently because we don't want to squash the clay. How beautiful is this flower shape? We don't want to squash the clay, but at the same time, we want to make sure that it is pressed down on there. Beautiful, and lucky last, this gorgeous moon phase design. With these as well, you also just want to make sure that you do have them straight. I think this one has a slight angle to it. Otherwise, you're going to have one wonky earring and one straight earring. Don't want that. But you can see that this metal surface is quite forgiving, so I could easily just peel that back up and do it again. So there you have it. We have our Huggie Baking Rack complete with our Huggie earrings, and they are now ready to go in the oven. So our Huggies are done and are all ready to come out of the oven. We're just going to leave them on the Huggie Baking Rack until they've cooled, otherwise they may lose that circular form if we try and pop them off early and they're still warm. Our Huggies are baked, they're cooled, we're ready to pop them off and get some earring findings on them. So I'm just going to start by popping off these grey granite ones. As you can see, they just pop straight off. And they have that perfect Huggie shape. Right? And we're just going to pop off these other ones here. That flower one, other flower one, and our moon phase one. And you can see that the Huggie rack is perfectly intact. So it's all ready to go when we want to use it again next time, which is fantastic. So I'll just give you a look at these. We've got our little flower huggie, very cute, and a moon phase one here. That would be great to fill with some liquid clay there. So we're going to go ahead and get some posts attached to these huggies. Now my preference are these 4mm posts, and the reason why I like to go the smaller option is just because with your huggie, because it does have that curved shape, if you do go something bigger like a 6mm, it won't sit flush on there, and there's a better chance, I guess, of your earring post coming off. Whereas because the 4mm has a smaller surface area, I mean, it's not 100% flush, but it'll work a bit better than a 6mm post. So this first pair, we're just going to look at gluing on, and then I'm going to run you through embedding our next step. So let's get our posts glued on. I'm just going to be using Loctite gel control today. If you haven't watched our YouTube video on different glues that you can use for attaching earring findings, highly recommend that you watch it. It's got some great tips in there. One of them is that it's a good idea to sand the backs of your posts and your clay pieces. So I've just got some sandpaper here. It's just 400 grit that I picked up from Bunnings. We're just gonna sand that there, sand this here. And that rougher surface will just mean that that glue grabs onto the clay and the earring finds them a little bit better. Just giving it a light sand while I'm here. All right. And we take our glue. On there. Oh, I've done this the wrong way. I'm not left-handed, but I am now doing this left-handed. And on there. Sorry, out of view of the camera a little bit there. And that post on there. Perfect. Now to do the other one. It does dry very quickly, so I want to get it in the right spot as soon as possible. There we are. We have our posts attached. Okay. And I've almost super glued my finger to my other finger. Be careful of that. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is embedding the posts. So we might just pop this one out the way. And we are going to bring over our grey granite huggies along with the leftover bit of clay that we've got here. Now I'm going to do a similar thing with these clay pieces and the earring posts, where I'm just going to sand the backs of them. Again, just means that it adheres a little bit better. And I am then just going to roll this a bit thinner. So I'm talking 1 millimeter, if that. You want it quite thin. That may be slightly too thin, but we'll see how we go. Okay, so I have these very handy tools here. They're actually normally used in electronics. So they're another tool that the polymer clay world has reappropriated. But they're fantastic when you want to make really tiny circles, which is what we're going to do now to attach these posts. So I'm just going to get this big one here. It's the black one if you're looking for a size. And as you can see, it is the perfect fit. There, just to cover our earring post. So I'm just going to cut out a couple of circles here. And I'm also going to cut out the middle. I'm actually thinking this green one is probably a bit big. Let's go with this brown one here. Give you a look there. See how teensy tiny it is? And this is just what our earring post is going to go through when we attach it. So I will just grab the tissue blade and just shimmy them off. You don't have to do that step of pointing out that tiny little hole there, but I just find it a lot easier to do this cleanly, because then all that you do is just poke out that little hole and you're good. Otherwise, a lot of the time you can really disform the clay when you're doing it. So I've just popped my post through the clay there, as you can see. And what I am going to do is just grab this Sculpey clay adhesive, or Bacon Bond as it may be known to the veterans of you out there. And we are just going to pop a little bit of this adhesive on here. Oh, if I opened the bottle properly. Oh, yeah, that definitely came out a bit quicker. And we're just going over here, and our clay we popped on, we're just going to basically smudge it. So the bit that you've put on top and the bit that's below become one piece. So this clay adhesive is not like super glue. You do need to bake it for it to set, so it's totally fine for you to be running your fingers around and doing that. And it'll bake clear, so you don't have to worry if you've got these little white bits here. That's number one done. Let's do our second one. And we just smudge that down again. Oh, being careful to keep it in the middle. And as I said before, this clay adhesive needs to be baked. So we have our two here, and I will go and pop them in the oven and we'll come back. So that is our tutorial on how to make this Huggie Baking Rack, as well as these Huggie earrings, and also on how to attach posts. We hope you found it helpful. If you do have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.